I noticed the first charge on my credit card late at night, sitting alone at my desk with a cup of cold coffee. It was a deposit to a luxury car dealership. At first, I assumed it was fraud. Someone had stolen my card. Someone had accessed my account. But the more I scrolled, the more the truth cornered me. Multiple charges, all from the same dealership, all processed over the past week. And the total added up to an amount that didn't even make sense. Then the final payment hit me like a punch to the ribs, $115,000. My chest tightened. I called the bank, ready to report theft. But something stopped me. A familiar name appeared in the confirmation emails linked to the dealership paperwork. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a hacker. It was my mother's email address, the one she used for family events and school sign-ups when we were kids. The same email she never bothered to change. My hands went still. A cold wave rolled through me as the pieces aligned. They weren't stolen charges. They were authorized payments. Except I hadn't authorized a single thing. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house with the kind of calm you feel right before a storm breaks. I walked in to find them in the kitchen, acting like everything was normal. And then I saw it out the window, parked across the driveway. Shiny white, luxury wheels, a huge red bow tied on top like a scene from an advert. My younger brother was circling the Tesla, taking photos, laughing like he'd won a prize. My mother stood beside him, proud and glowing. My father handed him the keys with a smile, so wide it almost mocked me. None of them saw me at first. I didn't speak. I didn't shout. I just stood there, letting the betrayal sink into my bones. They had bought him a $115,000 car, and they had used my credit card to do it, without asking, without telling me, without caring. When they finally noticed me, the first thing my mother did was gasp, then try to smile as if this was some surprise I should be grateful for. But something shifted inside me that morning. A line broke, and once it broke, there was no going back. The moment they realized I wasn't smiling, the air in the driveway tightened. My brother kept admiring the car, oblivious to the storm quietly forming behind him, while my parents exchanged uneasy glances. They looked like people caught doing something they knew was wrong, but hoped no one would notice. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask a single question. Instead, I walked past them, straight toward the Tesla, circling it the way they had minutes earlier. The paint was flawless, the rims spotless, the interior still wrapped in that stiff new car scent. All of it paid for by me. Every inch of it a reminder that my parents didn't just cross a boundary, they obliterated it. Inside, my thoughts unfolded like cold, sharp pages. This wasn't some careless mistake. This wasn't an accident. They had needed my credit limit. They had needed my good financial record. They had used me because it was convenient for them. And they had convinced themselves that I would swallow it without complaint, like I always had growing up whenever they favored my brother. I walked back inside the house, letting them follow me like anxious shadows. My mother tried to explain with gestures. My father hovered near the counter as if he expected things to blow over with time. But I had already decided something that none of them seemed prepared for. This wasn't going to fade. It wasn't something I could pretend away. It was financial fraud committed by the two people who were supposed to protect me. And I intended to handle it with the same cold precision they had ignored in me for years. I went upstairs to my old bedroom and closed the door. The space still smelled faintly of old textbooks and dust, untouched since the day I moved out. I sat at the desk and opened my laptop. The entire plan crystallized by itself, simple and devastating. I would contact my bank again, not to dispute the charges, but to freeze the card and request immediate documentation. The moment the investigation started, The dealership would be forced to release every signed form tied to the purchase. My parents had probably signed everything themselves, assuming my card would carry the burden silently. They didn't realize those signatures were evidence. Next, I reached out to the dealership's office. The manager recognized my name instantly. His tone shifted the second he realized the cardholder wasn't the one who made the purchase. He apologized, admitted they had assumed I was the one authorizing the payments because the person who signed the papers used my identity to confirm the transaction. My stomach tightened. They had imitated my information. My own parents had pretended to be me. By the time I ended the call, a new email arrived. The dealership had attached the full purchase contract, and there it was in the PDFs. My father's handwriting, shaky but unmistakable, placed under my printed name. My mother's signature appeared on a second page, clearly forged in a rush. It was all laid out like a confession. I forwarded everything to the bank. Then I forwarded it to law enforcement's Financial Crimes Division. Not a report of vague suspicion, an organized package of documentation. Clear, traceable, undeniable. Every page exposed how deeply they had violated my trust. When I finally left the room, the house felt smaller. My parents stood in the living room, their expressions twisted by worry they didn't know how to hide anymore. They sensed something had shifted. They sensed control slipping away from them. My brother kept glancing between us, confused and irritated, as if my reaction somehow ruined his big moment. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply walked out of the house, leaving them suspended in a silence that grew heavier with every minute. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea the consequences of forging a signature and committing credit fraud could reach into criminal territory. They had counted on my silence, on the version of me who used to apologize just to keep peace. But that version was gone. When I drove away, I didn't look back once. My phone vibrated nonstop as messages began pouring in, but I ignored all of them. I knew exactly what panic sounded like, and I wanted them to feel it every moment of it. Over the next few days, the situation escalated faster than even I expected. The bank froze the Tesla payment, then reversed the entire transaction pending investigation. The dealership demanded the vehicle be returned immediately, and because the contract wasn't in my voice or my signature, they shifted the liability entirely onto whoever had forged it. My brother's excitement collapsed instantly. The Tesla was repossessed in broad daylight. The neighbors watched as it was hauled away on a flatbed truck, leaving him red-faced and stunned in the driveway. My parents tried to negotiate desperately with the dealership, but policy was policy. A forged signature nullified everything. Their credit took a massive hit. Their finances spiraled, and then law enforcement contacted them for a formal interview. Nothing happened quietly anymore. Every choice they made in secret was now unraveling in full view. I kept my distance through all of it, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Actions had finally replaced words, and the weight of consequence, real legal consequence, had finally landed where it belonged. But I wasn't done yet. They had taken from me without hesitation. Now it was time to take back something far more valuable, control over my own life. And the next step would ensure they never used me as their financial safety net again.